another review by one of us, Professor Ibibia Lucky Worika, Esquire, former Secretary to the Government of Rivers State. Welcome, sir. You're yet to hear what corrections we have to go back to press for. Aigo Alabo. Please, take a listen. Welcome.
Because this is a proper review from a slightly academic point, but I'm quite conscious that we don't have enough time. It started and I'm quite conscious of the time. So I'm going to be fast, and I'm not going to do everything. I will just cut a whole lot of parts of the book. The book is a voluminous one. Let us be very clear. It's very voluminous. If you remove from the very second page all the Roman figures to preface and all that, you don't include those ones. Those ones alone are about 50-something pages. If you don't include those ones, this book has about 730-something pages. So it's not an easy book to quickly let you people know exactly everything that is inside. But I will try. Let's remember that Ogu is one of the 9 clans of Wakreke town. And the people of Ogu have a culture that is distinct, impressive, and largely without much external influence. While acknowledging that there has been a whole lot of theoretical work on Ogu and his people, none has presented Ogu in such depth and comprehensiveness as Senator George Thompson SEKIBO's attempts in a compendium of cultural heritage of Ogu Kingdom. Those things that make us unique. The compendium, to use his very words, and I agree with him, is a vibrant tapestry of the customs and folklore of the Ogu people, with chapters that dive deep into the age-old rituals, the significance of Ogu festivals, and the stories that are woven into the fabric of Ogu people's identity. Now, in this introduction, I talked a little bit about the author. We will skip it because we know very much about the author. But one thing that I find quite amazing is, despite his political background, his academic bent, he will testify that I have told him a couple of times that he should find time and come and share that knowledge with the university community. The foreword is written by no less an authority than Professor Abi Alabo Derefaka. He's a senior colleague of mine who just retired from the University of Port Harcourt. He used to be the director of the Institute for Niger Delta Studies. A lot of us may not know that Professor Abi Derefaka is a past winner of the John F. Kennedy Essay Contest, a feat that he attained as far back as in 1970, while still a student at King's College in Lagos. So we have such eminent persons here, and he gave the foreword, which I generally agree. The author did well, as is normal, to acknowledge generally those who have supported him. And he said it himself, the Fifikachere Foundation for graciously accepting the publication and distribution of the book. Special thanks as well to Alabo Honorable Boma Iyaye, my very own cousin, whose vision and unwavering belief in the importance of telling the Ogu story has contributed in no small measure to bringing this book about. And we want to thank you, Alabo Boma Iyaye Fifikachere the Fifth. Summary content and chapterization. This is where perhaps I will just bridge the gap. Now, I'm quite conscious that if I do all this, it will take too much time, so I won't. I will just start by letting you know in a nutshell that the compendium comprises 11 parts with 48 chapters. If you ask me, it's very creative and innovative. If they tell you that this book has 48 chapters, you probably say, yeah, whoa, 48 chapters. No, no, no. It is just 11 parts. But those parts have chapters embedded in them. I tell you, it's very creative. The titles of the parts are indicative of the diverse elements that comprise the cultural heritage of Ogu people, addressing not just the preservation of tradition, but also the transformative changes brought about by civilization as well as modernity. Part 1 dealt with Ogu Kingdom, an introduction. Part 2 is on the culture and tradition. Part 3 deals with chieftaincy institutions, while Part 4 is on the monarchy. Part 5 is on the family and cultural practices. Dispute management system is dealt with in Part 6, while Part 7 is on Ogu people's occupational practices. Parts 10 and 11 consecutively or respectively dealt with the spiritual heritage as well as religion and worship. Very important. I won't bore you with the details, but it's important. Sincerely, it is. And I'll just take one part to highlight and illustrate exactly what the book's about. Part 4, for example, dovetails into the monarchy in the 5 distinct but interrelated chapters. The evolution of kingship is dealt with in chapter 15. Crowning of the kings 1, process of crowning a king, is dealt with in chapter 16. Crowning of kings 2, coronation, day activities, is dealt with in chapter 17. Chapters 18 and 19 respectively examine burial rites of kings 1, the process of the burial rites. And then when you go a little bit further, you find, of course, you have the other burial rites on the day of the burial itself. Now, the intricate history and evolution of kingship in Ogu Kingdom was explored, tracing its deep-rooted monarchical traditions spanning over a millennium, beginning with the migration of Ogu people from the central to eastern Niger territories. The ceremonial process of selecting a new king is explored meticulously, focusing on the crucial ritual of Ekenwake, reinforcing the necessity of divine affirmation in leadership choices. The author further emphasizes community's deep-rooted commitment to its ancestral traditions and the importance of spiritual validation within the traditional leadership structure of Ogu Kingdom. One thing I remember very well, which I didn't capture, was that he suggested very strongly and rightly that we must pay attention to burying the kings first, and then we can deal with all the other issues that came about. Because right now what's happening is that when the king dies, until we settle a whole lot of issues that possibly could reign for months, if not more than a year, the man continues to remain unburied. That's a point that I think we have to take into consideration. This review dealt with every part and every chapter. But like I said, I won't bore you with them. I know how time has gone before Our Lady comes here with her this thing to say, time is up. But for some of you who want to hear about the critique, please permit me to take time on this. The context is Ogu Kingdom. The culture is Ogu Kingdom's culture, and it's located in the geographical coordinates defining our present kingdom within the larger Wakreke Se Ijo ethnic nationality. Admittedly, culture is dynamic and proceeds from the mores and traditions of the people. Within the context of the compendium, there is a poignancy in the specificity of Ogu as the chief identity, its people and their cultural heritage, not those of Bolo, Wakama, Ele, or any of the other clans of Wakreke. Societal structures are captured in parts 3, 4, 5, and especially part 8, which is about the longest chapter in the book. Now, culture defines who people are. And I can speak not just because of what I know now, but, and I say this with the greatest respect, my dad was a cultural symbol. He lived and breathed culture all his life. And so he spoke to us about culture. And I cannot agree more with you, my very great author. Culture improves societal cohesion and stability. It transmits knowledge and values, fosters economic development, and enhances mental well-being as well as connectivity amongst the people in the community. Also, it is said to be a bridge for communication. What this compendium does is to harness and record all these advantages for the benefit of both present and future generations of Ogu indigenes, even those that are yet unborn. The author, Alabo Senator George SEKIBO, is therefore playing an invaluable facilitative role in Ogu Kingdom by bridging the gap between the present generation of Ogu indigenes and those of the future. This book is without an iota of doubt. Of course, I said it from the beginning, voluminous, running into 739 pages exclusive of the preliminary pagination that runs into Roman figure LII or 53 pages. Combined, the book runs into about 792 pages. For those not used to reading books of this magnitude and length, it may be frightening and may pose a Herculean task to read, especially for Ogu youths, in an age of digital and social media. Remember, our trust is those youths, because for the elderly and those of us who are here, we are fairly used to the cultural heritage. We want to see that that culture does not die a premature death. So we must find ways of transmitting this knowledge in a way that is user-friendly to the youth of Ogu. Now, compartmentalizing the book into parts 1 to 11, with each part consisting of chapters, like I said, is a creative way of trying to hide the fact that it is actually voluminous. Now, chapterization, which in any event still runs into 48 chapters, arguably the parts would have constituted the chapters. In other words, rather than say it has 11 parts, I could have said personally, of course we all have our different distance, I could have said it has 11 chapters. Then the chapters will now constitute sub-chapters within the same chapter. That way it doesn't make you scared. Somewhere in Roman figure, anyway, don't worry, there was a place where we had the picture of the late father of Boma Iyaye, but the description clearly does not show that. I think that was a printer's error. It has nothing to do with you. I've written books before, I've made all the corrections, given to the printer, and then he prints it out without the corrections that I made. So I can't blame you. On the substantive aspects of this compendium, it is difficult, if not impossible, to contradict the author on the facts of Ogu cultural heritage as presented. This is because the work is not just a work of intense and commendable hard work. It is admirably exhilarating, especially for those deeply rooted in the customs, traditions, and mores of Ogu Kingdom. Unless one is so knowledgeable and experienced in Ogu culture and tradition, how can anyone critique a work of this indefatigable nature? I'm only a professor of law. I'm not a professor of Ogu history. It suffices to say, however, that the references to Ogu Kingdom's culture and traditions must necessarily be in sync with Nigeria's national, including state laws. That's like the big elephant in the room, and we don't want to admit that, but it is the truth. Our cultures, our traditions, our customary laws, when the chips are down, must be in sync with Nigeria's national laws. Otherwise, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria in section 1, subsection 1 up to 3, makes the Constitution supreme and overrides every other law that exists in Nigeria. And the Constitution is also basically overall, all authorities and persons are subject to the Constitution. Why am I saying all this? Because as far back as don't worry, I'm almost through. Discrimination in Nigeria is addressed through a combination of constitutional provisions, statutes, laws, judicial decisions, with section 42, which talks about the fact that no Nigerian citizen must be discriminated against on the basis of circumstances of birth, blah, 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 blah. So remember our Egwa cultures, remember our Egwa and Iya marriages and the children that come up from such, the way we deal with them. Truth is, Nigerian constitution no longer recognizes that. In Igbo land, in Ukeje versus Ukeje, the Supreme Court struck down an Igbo custom that rejected the right of a daughter to inherit her father's property. There are lawyers here, they can understand and appreciate that. It's just important that we know that. It's not more than that. Now, recommendation and summary. Sister, I am here. And this is just about 2 paragraphs, not much. At the Commonwealth Secretariat, where I used to be senior legal counsel and we are delivering technical assistance programs for Commonwealth countries. When I got to the Secretariat from OPEC, they called us and told us one thing. They said there are 3 things that we needed to bear in mind whenever we are delivering any Commonwealth project, assistance project, even our legal opinions and economic opinions. We used to work with economists and all that. They said, number 1, keep it simple. Number 2, keep it simple. And number 3, keep it simple. And along those lines, may I suggest respectfully that the parts be made chapters and the chapters sub-chapters. Secondly, the author may consider summarizing the compendium into smaller, much more manageable and readable manuscript, especially for youths. It's possible. It's not impossible. Trust me, it's possible. So you can have a book as big as this, but then you have a summary that you can easily sell to the younger generation. It has all the nitty-gritty. So there's still more work to be done. You can even reduce it into a digital this thing. And of course, you can be sure the younger generation, they will catch up with that very easily. The compendium is a comprehensive thesis that traces the history of Ogu people, and this is just the last paragraph. From their origins to the present day, offering an in-depth examination of their cultural heritage, traditional values and social systems, as well as highlighting the elements that differentiate them from other wider Wakrike Ijaw ethnic nationality. By meticulously documenting the customs, practices, and institutions of Ogu people, the author offers readers an illuminating understanding of their uniqueness within the wider Ijaw ethnic nationality and Niger Delta in general. It is undoubtedly a must-read to all patriotic Ogu sons and daughters. And beyond that, it should be a must-read to all patriotic Wakrike sons and daughters, and anyone who is interested in community history, culture, development, and affairs. Thank you so much for your patience in listening to me.
Many thanks. Thank you very much. That was a well done research and work.